Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is Aisha Sajjad, your trainer for Fire Safety Management Institute. And today, the topic that we will be exploring, after more people join in, inshallah, will be on research methods, which is covered in unit number 4. Again, my name is Aisha Sajjad, and the topic for today is unit number 4, research methods, and all the different report preparation, assessment preparation guidelines that we have related to it will be explored in today's session, inshallah. Okay, first of all, for the participants that are here, I would like to give a recap of how our training sessions have gone, how many units have been covered, and how many units are still remaining. So I would say that we have, just like I said in the last session, just about a week ago, that we have mandatory units as well as optional units. When we talk about mandatory units, we have a total of 4 units. While talking about the optional units, you have about 5 options. However, out of those, only 2 have been chosen by majority of the learners. Therefore, the ones that I've highlighted in this picture, therefore, these are the ones that will be explored in the form of training, in the form of a separate training session in coming weeks, inshallah. And other than that, I would like to clarify this specifically for all the participants that the rest of the units, which are delivering transformational change, environmental politics and policies, and sustainable finance. These are the 3 units that would not be covered in the form of a separate training session. However, if you feel like having any sort of guidance, if you want to ask anything, if you're unclear about any of the aspects related to their assessments, you can definitely ask away. You can ask the trainers, they will definitely help you with it. But it is to be clarified that we wouldn't be conducting separate sessions for these. Moving on, I want to talk about the unit that we have for today. So in the last session, Ms. Aisha Arif talked about how research methods are dealt with. What are research methods? What are the different practices used? What are the different procedures and analytical methods that people use while they're conducting researches? And what are the different methodologies that they use? However, when we talk about today's session, we will specifically be exploring how to assess, how to attempt the report for this research methods unit, how to be more proactive in attempting the report assignment that you have for today. You have been provided all the guidelines in the assessment brief. However, I am here to make it more easier for you, because research is honestly one of those topics that could be a little very bewildering for students, for anybody for that matter, because this looks like a very horrifying words. This sounds like something that's very difficult and complicated, which is not, because honestly research can be very surprising and very complicated in the beginning. However, when you indulge into it, when you start learning about it, it can be a lot of fun. It can definitely be something that helps you learn and unlearn a lot of things. So research is one of the most important topics that people talk about in scholarly research articles and everything else. And it's also one of the main things that we talk about when it comes to academic topics, when we talk about any studies that we're indulged in, any degree that we're getting, because research is actually one of the most important things. Why? For obvious reasons. We all know that we can learn a lot of things because of research. And it is for the sole reason that research has been able to provide people with so much information. It is for this reason that we're able to learn how things used to be in the past, how the wheel was discovered, how different things happened in the past, and how we can learn about this. Also, research is also very important, obviously, because it helps us learn about a lot of things that might be happening in the future. And how can this session, research methods, can be related to the field of study that we have, which is environmental management and sustainability management? Because in this regard, in this specific context, in the context of environmental sciences, in the context of sustainability management, how we can use different opportunities, how we can identify different gaps and problems and challenges and issues that we have in this specific area, how environment is facing a lot of challenges, how environmental depletion is happening, how climate change is happening, how so many problems we have, how sustainable development agenda is not being followed, how we are pretty far from all the goals and net zero goals that we have set for ourselves in the global context, how all of these problems and challenges can be solved, how they can be potentially solved. We're not saying that every single thing that we want to achieve or solve can be 100% solved through research, but obviously this is a very huge effort in this regard. Research is an effort. It is an ongoing effort that people keep on having, and this is a very continuous process that has been happening for many decades and many centuries, and will be definitely going on for the rest of our lives. Okay, so when we talk about research methods, this unit is called unit number 4, research methods. This is the reference number if you're interested in knowing, that has been provided on your screens. The unit title again is research methods. The unit level is OTHM level 7 diploma, and the number of credits that have been associated with this unit are 20. Why has this unit been created? What were the aims and objectives that the people who created this unit, who developed the outline for this unit, had in mind? So we will be talking about different aims that this unit has. Talking about the unit's aims, we mean that the research methods unit was developed because they want the OTHM trainers or tutors want you to learn how to conduct academic researches, what are researches in the first place, and how are research is conducted when it comes to academic studies, when it is in the academic regard, because we don't have a very huge context. We're not at a very big level or a scale, but for a learner, but for somebody who's a first timer, who's a newcomer, what is research, how it is conducted, how is an academic research conducted, and then specifically in regard to this assessment outline, how is a research proposal conducted, how is a research proposal created, what is a research proposal. I will be talking about that in detail in just a couple of minutes. Okay, and also one important aim of this unit is that it talks about the ethical concepts of research. It is a very important thing, and I would specifically like to emphasize on this, because research should have its roots and its fundamental basis connected to ethics and morality. We say that research is not something that comes and happens out of nowhere. It has specific ethical roots. Everything that happens as a part of your research process needs to be ethically very much correct. It should have philosophical reasons of why it is happening. It needs to be very practical, and it also needs to be very ethical and moral, because the kind of methodologies and approaches that you're using, the people that you're contacting for this research, the people you're interviewing, the people who you're talking to, the people you're having focus group discussions with, anybody who's a part of your research needs to be welcomed and needs to be treated in a very ethical manner. And when we talk about research, research is not complete until we keep its ethical aspects in mind. Okay, so the aims of this unit can be defined as: so the aims, when we talk about the aims of this unit, again, I would like to just on my fingers summarize what I said. First, we want to learn what research is and how do we conduct academic researches. Number two, how do we develop a research proposal, which is the main objective, the main task that you have for this report. Number three, how research has ethical and different moral concepts related to it. Okay, these are the three aims. Moving on to the learning objectives of this report, we say that we want to also learn different research approaches, because for somebody who's doing it for the first time, somebody who has never done any research in his past academic life and does not know how a research is done, what are the different approaches used, and how are these approaches helpful for me for conducting a research project, will be explored. Number two, very importantly, we will see what literature review is and how do we review literature, how do we critically review literature, what is the different procedures that we use, how we move from one step to another to basically come up with a proper literature review, and what is literature review. Number three, we want to have different research methodologies and different processes that we can use for that can be helpful, not just solely in the perspective of research, but also very important in terms of the business that we're having, or an organization that we are working at, or anybody for that matter could be having a research methodology which would be helpful for that person, for his business, for his entrepreneurship, for that person's organization, for that person's studies, or if anybody who just wants to conduct a research project because he wants to come up with a very with a different solution, wants to answer a question, he wants to just explore something entirely new, how different methodologies are used. And by the end of it, obviously we want to develop a research proposal which will be explored. Okay, so first of all, talking about the scenario, which is very important for this unit, because what do we have to do in this unit? In the past sessions, we saw that we were always given one organization that we had to relate our assessment criteria with, we had to relate our learning outcomes with it, and we had to basically encircle our entire report, our entire assignment around it. But talking about this unit, we basically want to have an independent small scale research project. So the learners, they're expected to do an independent research. So basically, by the word independent, we mean that you cannot work in the form of groups, you cannot work in the form of a small group of 2 students or 3. This is an independent research that every single student, every single learner in the OTHM level 7 diploma will have to conduct, and this is going to be a small scale research project. The word small is very important, because for you it has been provided is that you have been enlightened with this fact that this is a small scale research project. You have to keep it really small and really low key, because it is not something of a very big scope. All right, and obviously the research projects that you will be conducting will obviously be based on the interest that you have, anything that you're interested in, anything that you want to work on. So this is going to be a research project. And please remember that a research could be anything. It could be based on anything. It could be based on a question that you suddenly thinking about something, something comes to your mind all of a sudden, or something that you have been thinking about for your entire life, something that has been it has been paining you for your entire life, and you wanted an answer to it so bad. So, or an opportunity that you want to have for your organization. For example, you're working at a construction company and you want to see how this thing in this regard can be a huge opportunity for my organization. So I need to conduct a research project for that. Or this is a problem for my organization and this is a challenge. This is something that should not be happening here. Therefore, you would want to conduct a research project for that specific problem. So that you could do one thing. Learners, please remember that you can do one thing. You can either have a research opportunity at hand, or you can basically find a solution to a problem. So when we talk about a problem, mainly people usually start with conducting a research based on usually a problem or a challenge or solution, or something that is wrong with the society, something that is wrong with the environment. Okay, so please remember that your research should be a manageable area, something that you can do in the real place. Okay, do not please go overboard and talk about something that's very, very big. Rather, you can have a something that is of your own level, of your own scale, or is also related to your studies. Okay, so in the scenario we saw that we need to conduct a research project which should be of a small scale, it needs to be independent, it should be according to your interest, it should be related to your studies, it could either be based on an opportunity or a problem, and it should have a manageable area that it is working in. Now, as you have been assigned with the task to prepare a research proposal in this assignment, but somebody might come up and ask, what is the difference between a research proposal and a research report? Because these sound like pretty similar to each other, but what is the difference? Why not call this assignment a research report, or a research, or a research project, or a research method in general? But we want to say that a research proposal is different from a research report, mainly because of the length and purpose that it has. A research proposal is the one that, for example, you go to your supervisor has asked you to prepare a research proposal. You go to your supervisor and you tell them that, okay, this is the kind of a topic that I will be choosing, this is the kind of an area of interest that I have, and this is how I plan to conduct my research. So a research is basically of a longer duration. So what your supervisor would do is, I'm talking about general degrees, your supervisor mostly would ask you to prepare a research proposal, and he would give you a specific deadline, or maybe a week, or 2 weeks, and he would say that please come up with the research proposal, submit it to me so that I can check your direction and I can basically review it, comment on it. Okay, so when you submit a research proposal, it is basically, most of the times it is pretty short. Okay, it could be a 2 pager, it could be a 3 pager, or maybe it could be as long as 2,500 words. Depends on your supervisor, depends on the degree that you're having. Okay, so the research proposal is basically conducted before the real research. So you have to tell your plans, you have to tell how you would be doing different things, how you will be conducting the research. Okay, and it is short as compared to the real research report. Obviously, the real research report that you will be preparing after the research process has ended will be long, it will be pretty long. Okay, and then it is basically having lesser headings, lesser sections as compared to a research report. A research report, just like I said, is long, but a research proposal is short. Okay, so when you look at page number 18 and 19 of your assessment brief, you have been provided with some really nice and easy instructions. And I would like to focus on this because on page number 16 and 17, we have been provided the learning outcomes and the assessment criteria, but those are pretty confusing. So I would request you all to please do not confuse yourself with those assessment criteria, and straight away go to page number 18 and 19 and start with the first heading and the second, the one that the ones that you have been provided. These are pretty easy to follow, and you can simply start writing the introduction. Number 2 would be literature review, 3 will be research methodology, 4 will be statement of ethics, and 5 will be the timeline. Okay, so these have a lot of detail associated to them, which I will be exploring throughout today's session. But for this specific slide, I wanted you guys to please remember that page number 18 and 19 is very easy for you to follow. So in order so that you don't confuse yourself. Okay, moving on. Okay, so first of all, when we talk about a research proposal, okay, now at this stage, we are starting with writing our research proposal. Okay, okay, first of all, I wanted to see how many participants do we have right now. Okay, so we don't have many, but because the original plan that I had was that I wanted to basically uh, choose any one of you, or maybe interact with any one of you and ask you guys to suggest me a topic. But since we don't have a lot of participants, unfortunately, I am going to be the one to choose the topic for myself. Okay, so for example, we choose a topic that talks about, let's make it interactive. Okay, so we want to choose a topic that talks about food waste. I wouldn't be writing the entire statement here, obviously, for keeping it brief. So I have chosen a topic that's related to food waste, and it says that food waste can be, the problem of food waste can be solved by using circularity or circular practices. Okay, so let's keep it simple here. Okay, for example, this is the topic that I've chosen. Okay, so I want to say that food waste has been happening in the world. This is a problem. This is a challenge for the environment. This has many repercussions related to the environment, and we need to basically we need to discourage this specific thing. We need to discourage food wastage, and why do we need to discourage it? And by the end of it, we want to say that the problem of food wastage can be discouraged or can be solved through circularity or through circular economics or through circular practices. Okay, so this is what my research is about. It's about food waste and the solution. You always propose a solution in your research. By the end of it, you mostly do that. So the solution that I will be providing would be circularity. Okay, so I would help you in choosing a topic, and I would tell you that whenever you're choosing a topic, always keep it specific to the time context that you have. For example, you are living in 2024, so your topic needs to be closer to this time era that we have, and the research you would do would be highly efficient if it is related to present time challenges or about something that's related to the future problems. And you relate your present and future together, and it should not be something that has long happened ago, long time ago. And you shouldn't be choosing that. It wouldn't be a very efficient research. It wouldn't be a very helpful research for the studies. Number two, your topic starts with brainstorming. I cannot emphasize this enough. Sitting down, brainstorming your ideas, choosing ideas, cutting them, removing them, coming back with more ideas is extremely important, because this is how topics are chosen. It could happen that you could go, any student could go to the supervisor and would suggest one topic for his research, but the supervisor would cancel it. You would suggest another topic, you will be cancelled again. You might suggest 10 topics, 15 topics, maybe more, and your supervisor would be canceling them. This might also happen. So you need to require a lot of brainstorming, a lot of effort to it, because this is the starting stage of your research, and a lot of what you do during the research is going to be dependent on this one thing, brainstorming, and how you choose your topic. Number three, it should be very specific. It shouldn't be scattered all over the place. It shouldn't be something that covers so many things that it's difficult for you to choose one out of those. It should be very specific and simple. And number four, it could be from any area of interest that you have. Okay, so just like in this picture, I have said that we have many fields in the world. We have many options at our hand, but it is up to you to decide which option do you want to choose for your research purposes. And then the fact that you're a human being, you have a number of ideas, you have a gazillion of ideas coming to your brain all the time. You might wake up one morning and say that, okay, I have this idea. The next morning you would have another idea. So you might have so many ideas in your mind, but choosing one of those, something that's manageable, something that's doable, something that's helpful for the research pool, is extremely important. So do not be overwhelmed by all the number of ideas that you have. Choose any one of those and you will be good to go. After choosing the topic, we move on to the introduction. So the introduction part has many small sections to it. Okay, so but when we talk about specific section of writing and introduction, this requires a lot of writing. This section is the one in which you will have to spend a lot of time. Introduction and literature review are two segments that require more time. Okay, so first of all, obviously, how do you write an introduction section? You start with introducing your topic. For example, talking about my topic, I would tell what food waste is, and I would provide definitions. I will provide key concepts related to it. I will differentiate between food waste and food loss. I will provide all the main information that's needed. And I will obviously, by the end of the introduction section, provide a conclusion, provide recommendations, provide a solution to the problem. This is also a part of the introduction section. And when for example, you have to just provide a small paragraph or just one large paragraph, how would you carry that out? For example, in the first sentence, you would give a fact. Talking about the fact, for example, I say that food waste contributes to 3% of all the global greenhouse gas emissions. This is a fact. Okay, so I started with a fact. It could be any fact related to your specific topic. So just like I said, I would say food waste has been contributed to this much of greenhouse gas emissions in the world. So this is a factoid. This is something that would obviously attract the reader towards your topic and would obviously get to understand the context of the problem and how this problem needs to be understood. Now, in the second and third sentence, you would provide definition of food waste. In the fourth sentence, you will provide the recent trends. Okay, you will provide how food waste might be doubled by 2030, how the problem of food waste is expected to triple by this year. Okay, so you will be providing a recent trend. In the fourth and fifth sentence, you will provide other people's perspective, how it has been said that food waste happens from the production stage till the very end stage, how it needs to have a cradle to grave approach, how it needs to take into consideration all the aspects related to food waste, from where the food was harvested and how it reached people's fork and people's tables, dining tables, and how it is wasted at that point. All the different stages of this food value chain needs to be considered. But in the sixth and seventh sentence, I will give my own perspective, but that perspective needs to be backed by proper research articles. So my perspective could be that food waste and food loss both are huge problems. However, food waste is a bigger problem. Then I would obviously give certain stats related to it. In the eighth sentence, I will give the main statement related to my research topic. For example, I would say that food waste can be solved. The problem of food waste can be solved through various approaches related to circular economy, and how linear economy has been the root of this problem. Next thing, which is also a part of, which is basically a subheading of the introduction, is problem statement. So problem statement is the one where you identify different gaps in the research. You basically determine a proper orientation and a direction for yourself, and you provide how the problem at hand is having impact on the environment, and how it is very important that we consider this topic. For example, when we talk about problem statement, it would be mostly in the form of a paragraph. It could be in the form of a bullet, but I would obviously prefer having a paragraph. So the paragraph might start with how food waste is a problem, how food loss is also a problem, how this problem is leading to problems such as hunger, problems, starvation, and problems for the food chain, how it is leading to food security, and so on. Number third session, another section that you will be having for your introduction is, so it needs to be provided in the form of a specific separate heading. It says the background of the study. So background of the study could say that we are living in a world where economic problems are prevalent. We are living in a world where people are dying of hunger. We are living in a world where people have to go to bed hungry every night, and we're still having a very privileged life. But the people who have food availability are causing a lot of food waste. But food waste is not just happening because of people's approaches, but it's also happening because of a lot of losses and a lot of inappropriate approaches and innovation problems. So you will be providing the background of why you have chosen the study. The aims and objectives obviously will go in the form of bullets, and they will, for example, go like it would go like, first aim would go like to identify food waste. Second could go like to recognize this problem. Third could go like to comprehend how this problem is a global environmental challenges, or to identify how this is leading to greenhouse gas emissions, immediately ultimately leading to global warming, and so on. And then in the first objective, you could say how we need to identify circular practices that can be used to solve the problem of food loss in the world, food waste in the world. Okay. And when we talk about the limitations and scope of the study, we will say that not every research has every single thing provided to them. We need to be very specific. We need to have into consideration certain limitations and certain blockages that we have. We need to have a very authentic research. It needs to be very reliable. The data that you use needs to be reliable. So you also have geographical constraints. So your research does not need to have an entire globe into perspective. It should be very specific. And if it's related to your own area, if it's related to your own organization, your own region, your own country, that will be better. And you need to involve your stakeholders in the process. For example, all the people that are working with you, all the people that are interviewing, that you are interviewing, all the people that are solving the questionnaires for you need to be involved in the process. And then it's also important that you need to consider policy implementations also. So then you move on to the second biggest section, which is of literature review. So literature review would always be based on relevant literature. You would be going on and on through different sources. You would identify different themes and different gaps in the problems. You would obviously be side by side outlining the structure that you want to have. And by the end of it, when you're done with outlining all of it, you would start writing your literature review that needs to be properly cited in the form of in-text citation, and then in the form of end text citation that will be provided in the form of a reference list or in the form of a bibliography. The next section, the next third big section, is research methodology. The first big section was introduction. The second one was literature review. The third one is research methodology. So talking about research methodology, you could have different approaches and strategies. You could have data collection. You could have population and sampling, and then data analysis. So what are different research approaches? So your research approach could be qualitative, it could be quantitative, or it could be a mixture of both. This means that you could be using different types of records, and that you could be using different observations that are qualitative, that cannot be considered in the form of numbers. But you can also have quantitative approaches, such as how you are using different types of statistical records that you have. You are using different questionnaires. You are using different types of interviews, and how you are basically analyzing the results of those. But you could also have a mixed approach, which is a combination of both qualitative and quantitative. Talking about the data collection, the data for your research could be collected through questionnaires, through interviews, through case studies, through documents, different documents that you have available from different organizations, and then different government records that you can be using. For example, for the food waste, we could be going to the Food and Agricultural Organization, and we could be asking them for different records. If they can produce those records for us, we can be using that for our research. And then population and sampling. What is population and sampling? This means population is the kind of a people, the public, and that is of interest to you, that you are using for your research, the ones that you are interviewing, the ones that you are considering for your research, the ones that you are providing the questionnaires to. Okay, and the size of the population depends on the level of study that you have. This means the number of people that you will be choosing. And data analysis could be done through different statistical approaches, such as ANOVA and SPSS. And by the end of the research, you would always provide conclusions and recommendations that will be the final thoughts, that will be the summary, that will be the final words of our research. For example, talking about my topic, I would say that it has been found, it has been concluded that food waste is a major challenge, but it can be solved to an extent by this and this year if we have some really proper circular practices in use. And then you also have to provide a statement of ethics. This is also a major section which says how, for example, I would be very protective of the data that the participants have provided me. I will always provide authentic data. I will be very careful about how their data is kept in confidentiality, how they will be asked for their permission before we add in their names in the research, and how the data that they have provided will be used in the research. So, you have to be very careful about the ethical perspective of that. And then when we talk about the research proposal, because you are suggesting how the research will be conducted, you will be providing a timeline. You will be providing a basic step-by-step procedure of how you will be conducting this research in these times, and how this will be conducted over a stretch of a time. Would it take 5 months? Would it take a year? Would it take 3 years? Okay, so you provide a Gantt chart for this. You can search for what a Gantt chart is, and then you could, always create that on your own through Excel or different online data sources that you have. You can use different approaches for Gantt chart. You can create it, and you will always tell how different parts of your research will be conducted over a stretch of time. When will you submit the first draft of your research report? When will you submit the second draft? And when would you finally submit the final draft? So you have to provide a proper timeline of that. When you're done with all the sections, you have to provide a bibliography. Okay, so might a lot of you might be confused between what is the difference between a referencing and bibliography. Okay, so essentially both of these are like the same things, but not the same things at the same time. For example, we see in this picture that the references and bibliography look like the same thing, but to summarize this, we would say that bibliography is the one in which we would cite all the recent articles, all the review articles, all the different types of studies, and all the books that we consulted, every single thing that we consulted while we were preparing our literature review, while we were learning about the research. The ones that we even read will be conducted, will be included in the bibliography section. While talking about a reference list, we only add those citations or those references that we have included essentially in the research. Okay, now talking about the delivery guidelines, this unlike all the other units that we talked about, this basic unit, which is of research methodologies or of research proposal preparation, it will be of 2500 words. It will have Harvard style citations, and it will have a bibliography. It will not have a referencing. It will have bibliography, and then it needs to be prepared in the form of a research proposal, which is of 2500 words. So I would summarize this a little. Your research proposal would have an introduction. It will have its background. It will have its aims and objectives. It will have a literature review. And also please remember that in-text citation is also very important, because while you're conducting a research and when you're having a research proposal, please add in-text citation. So while you're writing the introduction, while you're writing the literature review, side by side, you have to provide in-text citation, which would go, for example, like this. You will be providing the name of the author, and then you would be providing the year of publication of that research. Okay, so this is easier for the assessor to see how this specific article was taken from, how this author has said this. For example, you could also be providing the names of different organizations such as WHO or UNDP or UN, and then this is basically in the form of a proper index citation, which you can learn online. Okay, so talking about the research proposal, it would have an introduction, it will have a literature review section, it will have a methodology section, it will have statement of ethics, it will have a conclusion and recommendation sections, and then by the end of it, it will have appendices and the bibliography section. So this is it. This is it related to the research review, related to the research proposal preparation. I hope you understood how a research proposal is created, how it is formatted, how to prepare a nice research proposal based on a specific topic, something that looks nice and something that is very, very understandable, and something that will leave a very good impact on somebody who's reading your assessment. And then based on this research proposal, your supervisor will let you move further, and he will tell you how this needs to be changed, this section needs to be improved, this section needs to be reviewed, these things are a little different from what your perspective is, and how we need to improve this, and so on. And then you will submit your research proposal, and then followed by your research. Thank you so much for attending today's session. Allah Hafiz.